This is Brian Carlton for ABN Newswire. We're here at the Resources Roadshow at the Bowlers Club of New South Wales in York Street in the city of Sydney. Lots of investors turning up and getting lots of presentations from all sorts of very, very interesting companies and people. One of whom, Marc Bruner, joins me now. He's the President and CEO of Falcon Oil Gas. Marc, welcome to ABN.
Thank you.
You operate an unconventional kind of operation. What exactly is Falcon Oil Gas into?
Well, Falcon Oil Gas is looking worldwide for exactly the same thing that has created a revolution in the United States. Before 1995, we didn't have an unconventional oil and gas business. Today, 70% of all the drilling rigs that are drilling in the United States are unconventional.
What is unconventional exactly?
Unconventional is essentially, historically the oil and gas business has been looking for conventional structures, okay, where basically the source rocks leak the hydrocarbons and trap them, okay? That's the conventional oil and gas business. What we've done is go back to the sources of where the oil and gas was originally generated, and we have found ways in the last 15 years to commercially extract these deposits, and they're significant. I mean, at this point, 50% of all the natural gas production in the United States, from essentially zero since 1995, come from these kind of deposits.
What sort of technologies are you employing to make these oil and gas deposits commercially viable?
Well, I mean, there's really three types. Coal bed methane, which you're familiar with here in Queensland, sure. That's actually on the lower rung of the unconventional deposits. Then we have what we call tight, low permeability gas sands next to these shales and coals. That's actually the number 2 in terms of reserves. The number 3, which is by far the largest, are these shale gas projects. And we have in the United States deposits like the Barnett Shale in the Fort Worth Basin of Texas, the Haynesville, the Marcellus, the Eagle Ford, deposits like that. And so that's actually what we do, except Falcon looks outside the United States for these kind of deposits.
Why Australia?
Well, Australia, very interestingly, we believe has one of the world's largest unconventional deposits, both for oil and for gas. And this area in the Beetaloo Basin, we think, is a very special basin.
That's south of Darwin?
It's south of Darwin, about
500 kilometers.
500 kilometers,
okay.
Right. And we think it's a very special basin. And what actually happened is that exploration took place by a subsidiary of Rio Tinto between 1989 and 1992 when this technology didn't exist. Okay, so no one in the world was doing it at the time, but based on the extensive coring programs in terms of 11 wells that they drilled, we were able to identify this extremely large unconventional oil and gas deposit.
How big is the deposit?
Well, we think it's in excess of 100 trillion cubic feet of gas. We think it's the size of Bass Straits and Gorgon combined, okay?
Well,
in terms of natural gas,
okay?
In terms of oil, it could be up to 50 billion barrels the size of Kuwait in terms of the size of it. So it's very, very large.
That's staggering.
It is staggering, but we think it's very real, okay?
What's your access to transport infrastructure?
Well, the infrastructure is, for the oil, not a real issue because very kindly you built a very nice railroad from Adelaide all the way to Darwin. Mm-hmm. Putting the oil on these railroad cars is not going to be an issue. Also, there's the Stewart Highway that goes all the way up to Darwin. That's not an issue as well. So we do have a way to get the oil to transport. There's also a pipeline that goes through the property all the way to Darwin. Although this is a smaller pipeline, it's not going to be, I mean, there's probably only 40 to 50 million cubic feet of gas a day in terms of a market. So what's going to happen is, at some point, a very large pipeline is going to need to be built to Darwin, okay, to handle the natural gas.
And what stage of the process are you in right now?
Well, we are in the stage of, we've actually drilled a well out in the center of the basin, and we've used all of the most current technology that we use in the United States to identify these deposits. And we've encountered over 2 kilometers of oil and gas in the middle of this basin. And this year, we are going to be completing that well, okay? And it'll be very interesting to see what those flow rates look like. After that, based on over 10 completions in 3 different petroleum systems, we're going to, after those results, decide where we want to drill these horizontal wells that will be actually, over a mile in length, okay, in order to be able to properly extract these deposits, both oil and gas.
What's the time frame? You're looking at listing on the ASX. What's the time frame there?
We would look at the fourth quarter. of a listing there. Quite frankly, we right now have over 15 of the largest companies in the world in our data room that are looking to partner up with us. I wouldn't be surprised before that listing that we have at least one or more transactions with some of the biggest companies in the world.
Prepared to name any of them?
I've signed an agreement that I won't name
okay,
them.
Okay, I understand.
But most of them are there. Okay.
So, Mark, what dollar value are you prepared to put on this resource at the moment, if any?
Well, at this stage, it's not proven. We know for sure the resource is there. Okay. I mean, this would be very difficult to be able to do that. But my view would be it's certainly into, I would say it's a $100 billion plus resource.
Wow, and export markets, the usual suspects?
Well, the usual suspects, of course, for the natural gas. ConocoPhillips has an LNG plant that's underutilized now. There's also another LNG plant that's going up there. Certainly for the natural gas, we're going to be talking about LNG, okay? I mean, for the oil, we'll have a market both here and into the Far East as well. This deposit actually is in the right place.
Any potentially unforeseen regulatory issues, environmental issues, indigenous issues?
I think one of the things that's very important here is that it's going to be proper planning. Over the life of this project, what we want to do, which we've done in the past, is be extremely environmentally friendly. We want to make sure that we leave as small a footprint, you've maybe heard that word before,
sure have,
as possible. And it's going to require a lot of planning for this kind of project. In the early stages, what we want to do is actually prove that the resource exists so people know that it's there, okay? And then we'll mobilize all the proper planning to be able to decide exactly how to develop the project. But, someday, my view is you really don't have a domestic energy business. My view is that this will absolutely create it for you.
What do you envisage as the lifetime of the project if everything pans out as you expect?
Oh, I think this is a 100-year project.
That's a massive amount of resources.
It's a massive amount of resources. This group Apex that we've hired to really evaluate it and look at it, and they have done a lot of projects in the United States. This would be like having the Haynesville, the Barnett, the Bakken oil shale play, all rolled into one. And if you go into any of those plays, there's 100 operators. Here in the Beetaloo Basin, it's just us. It
begs the question, why haven't some of the major operators already here in Australia decided to get involved in this resource?
Well,
somehow?
I think that what you have to understand is that all the literature is wrong on this basin. And we've spent the last 5 years exploring it and looking at it. It's actually a rift basin, just like some of the basins in the Middle East, which in this you have two 800-meter shales. And the bottom shale has over 12% total organic content. It's as good, if not better, than any sort of source rock in the world. Okay?
Were these government surveys the original ones you're claiming are wrong?
This is actually literatures by scientists that came out here and thought it was a slip strike type basin. They didn't really understand that it was a rift basin. When with all the work that we've done on it, we think we've properly identified it, and it's just one of those golden nuggets that's been laying out here that people really didn't understand. I'm sort of a simple type of guy. When I look at 2 kilometers of gas and oil in place, I don't really care how it got there. I just know it's there.
It's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Right.
The future's looking great for Falcon Oil and Gas. Marc Bruner, President, CEO. Thanks for joining us on ABN.
Thank you so much.